In El Dorado Estates, on Lama, a retired firefighter completes suicide, and his family is in complete shock. In North Long Beach, parents are hysterical after their child drowns in a pool during a family party. On 28th Street, a father has a heart attack while playing with his children in the yard. In an apartment off Linden, a man wakes up to find his wife of 52 years died in the night. On Queensway Drive, a commercial truck driver is rattled after accidentally hitting and killing a transient pedestrian. Witnesses and victims are stunned as a boat catches fire in Alamitos Bay and then explodes. On Ocean Avenue, a man is stabbed during a home invasion at his beachfront condo. He is in the ER, and his wife is across the country with tickets to the US Open. On Atlantic Avenue, a boy suffers a seizure in front of classmates and staff, and they are rattled. A woman and her passenger are driving down Studebaker, and the car flips at Loins. The family shows up, and they're confused because all they hear is that one person died and one person was transported to the hospital. Which one was their daughter? What do all of these tragedies have in common? A tip volunteer was there. So, as Linda said, my name is Kryssie Booth, and I am the program director. I'm the program director for the Long Beach Volunteers with Trauma Intervention Program. TIP is a group of specially trained and vetted individuals who provide emotional and practical support to survivors in the immediate aftermath of a tragedy. Each event that I just referred to occurred within the last 18 months. Trauma develops when a person experiences something harmful or threatening, and it has long-term effects on their well-being. It affects people of any age, race, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and as you just heard, zip code is not an indicator of proximity to trauma. So how does our program work? First responders, firefighters, and police officers, and hospital personnel can request a TIP volunteer to a scene through our dispatch system. There is always a volunteer on call, which is how we can respond 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our responder feedback has told us that having a TIP volunteer with the survivor or survivors allows them to focus on their job while knowing that those individuals are taken care of. TIP has been called out for natural or unexpected deaths, attempted or completed suicides, drownings, home invasions, witness to a crime, violent attacks, sexual assaults, and even infant and maternal deaths. We will show up to any situation where a police officer, firefighter, paramedic, nurse, or hospital social worker recognizes the need for our assistance. The system is specifically in place for police, fire, and hospitals that we're contracted with, so the program and services aren't available to be requested by the general public. So Trauma Intervention Program is a national nonprofit. It has 15 affiliates across the United States. TIP of Long Beach became an affiliate in November of 2021. For the first 2 years, we exclusively responded to calls from Long Beach Police Department while we figured out our capability. And we recently expanded to include Long Beach Fire and several local hospitals. Since the time that we have served Long Beach, TIP has responded to over 650 calls. Since January of this year, we have been to 212 scenes and cared for over 1,100 clients and survivors. So almost 40 years ago, 1985, 40 years ago, my goodness, a group of mental health professionals, including our founder, Wayne Fortin, identified a problem and developed TIP as a response to it. The problem had two parts. Survivors often have inadequate support in the immediate aftermath of a tragedy. Emergency responders are busy, and family members and friends often don't know what to do or say. When survivors don't have support, they often suffer a second injury. That is the perception that they did not receive help in their time of need. Think, why did they leave me alone? Why did no one answer my questions? So the second injury can lead to serious mental health problems and can last a lifetime. TIP is a solution. TIP volunteers provide temporary support that survivors need, and we provide what we call emotional first aid. The volunteer's presence often prevents second injuries and can assist in long-term recovery. Volunteers provide a caring presence and can hold space until family or friends arrive. And training teaches volunteers ways to connect and establish a supportive, non-judgmental relationship with a stranger for 3 to 4 hours. Just being there is powerful. Volunteers protect their clients from harm, whether it be gruesome sights, insensitive sounds, or even their own thoughts. We also provide a curated guide of local resources. My biggest concern when I began the training academy was, how am I going to handle carrying all this trauma? Would I be haunted by the calls that I went to? But extensive training equipped me and other volunteers to leave ourselves in the car. This is not my tragedy. Those mantras, we internalize them, and it helps to safeguard ourselves from taking on the trauma of others. TIP also has a debriefing system in place where a few days after their encounter, a volunteer, or sooner if they require it, a volunteer receives a call from a debriefer where they can talk through their experience and then gently set it down. Volunteers are also taught the limits of our assistance as well. We don't give advice. We're there to empower our survivor to be able to regain a sense of control. We don't pray with survivors. To respect all spiritual preferences, we don't engage in prayers. In hospitals, there are chaplains who take the spiritual lead. We will witness and support, we will hold a hand, and we will silently respect our survivors. TIP volunteers don't deliver death notifications. We don't confirm deaths, but we try to coordinate with the officer or the coroner or medical examiner on the scene so that we can be right there to support someone after they receive that news. We don't transport. We do our best to coordinate transportation if necessary, but our volunteers don't drive anyone anywhere. We don't get in the way. Our effort is to be a caring presence for our survivors, but to also allow professionals to focus on their jobs. We don't counsel. We listen, we reassure, we organize. We don't interact with the media. And we make sure that our survivors know that it's their right to not interact with the media also. We don't share personal or medical information. We can act as a liaison between our survivors and the responders or the coroner or the doctor, and we can communicate when they're looking for answers, but we don't relay that information. Currently, we have about 18 active volunteers. We are always looking for individuals who feel that TIP might be a good fit for them. 2 to 3 times a year, we offer a national training academy. The process has been standardized so that anyone volunteering with any affiliate across the U.S. will be learning the same skills and processes. Our volunteers must be over the age of 18 and complete every session of the training academy. They then enter a 3-month field training period that is mentored after passing a thorough background check and being live scanned. We ask for a commitment of 1 year. Some do their year and move on. It's something that's common for college or graduate students, and other volunteers choose to remain and maintain an active status. Volunteers agree to be on call for 3 12-hour shifts per month, 7 to 7 a.m. or p.m., and to attend monthly continuing education meetings. The training process is incredibly thorough. Academies are led by nationally certified trainers, and the first week intensely focuses on the emotional first aid skills. We learn the difference between caring and curing. We identify the immediate needs of our survivors in those first few hours. Trainees dive into the concept of second injury and the long-term impacts. Now, the second week of our training focuses on learning how to work within the emergency response system. We learn to understand the scope of our reach within the parameters of the agencies that we are partnered with. TIP training includes guest speakers so that we can hear the survivors, the volunteers, and the responders' perspectives. We role play different scenarios to prepare our volunteers for what they'll encounter. That curated resource guide is provided on almost every call. It includes ways to talk to children about death, how to care for yourself in the aftermath of a trauma, and signs to look for that indicate there might be a need for more help. There are also practical resources in there. Local mortuary and cremation services, grief and family counselors, child therapists, EMDR specialists, support groups for widows, veterans, LGBTQ. There are cleanup and board up services and religious and cultural support. Survivors can also access other printable resources via our website. So a portion of our guide has already been translated into Spanish. It's one of our priority goals to get it translated to Khmer Tagalog to better support our Cambodian and Filipino neighbors. We are fortunate to have a few bilingual volunteers, though we're always looking for more. So the anatomy of a tip call. This is an exercise that we do in training, and it looks something like this. A Long Beach Fire Department dispatcher calls to request a tip volunteer. The on-call tip volunteer is dispatched to that scene, and they typically arrive within 20 to 25 minutes. Our affiliate actually has an average of 22 minutes right now. Once on the scene, the Long Beach Fire Department contact briefs the tip volunteer and introduces them to the survivor. The volunteer remains on the scene with the survivor until the call ends, which is typically when the decedent is taken into the care of a mortuary or the coroner. And in a few days, our volunteer follows up with the survivor. These are short-term relationships. Our volunteers provide acute care. The needs of someone who's experienced a trauma are different in the immediate aftermath versus a few hours or even days later. A key step to learning emotional first aid is unlearning so many of the common sense impulses that we've become accustomed to. So many of us are well-intentioned in our effort to fix a problem and make someone feel better. But in those first few hours after a tragic event, the survivor is often surrounded by people who have a job to do, who have opinions about what the survivor should do. And our goal in providing emotional first aid is to enable that survivor to act according to their own wishes. The volunteers who arrive on a scene don't pull an individual out of the pit. They climb in the pit and get in there with them. The feedback that we receive from survivors often comes months or even a year later. They may not remember the name of the person who came to be with them, but they always remember that in one of the worst moments of their lives, they were not alone. I am so thankful for the opportunity to share TIP with you. Our small band of volunteers are people that I am so grateful to know and to learn from. Susan Tanaka is our assistant director, and Diana Kellstrom is our outreach manager, and they have proved to be so instrumental in our leadership team. Shard Hart, who is already a friend to many here, is such a champion for our program. And Mike Jensen is on the national board for TIP, and he was pivotal in bringing the trauma intervention program to Long Beach. There is a sincere humility that comes with being allowed to share sacred spaces with people who have suffered so greatly. Bearing witness to their pain and walking with or sitting with them, it fills me with a kind of gratitude that I was unfamiliar with before. I invite you to visit our website to learn more about our program. I'm so grateful to be able to come here and talk to you and share a little bit about TIP. I'm so grateful for Linda for reaching out. And I really hope that now that you know, you can help. Thank you so much.